Hello and welcome to Quartzlight, your car brochure channel. In today's Ford Friday, we're going to be looking at this Ford Transit. Hello and welcome back to Quartzlight, your car brochure channel. Here on YouTube, where we look at car brochures from around the world for the 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s. So if you think that might interest you, please consider subscribing. Now, it's Ford Friday. Every Friday we look at a Ford, and today is the turn of this, the Ford Transit, in this 1978 brochure for the European market. So let's dive straight into that now. So here is today's brochure. So like I say, this brochure is from 1978, actually February 78, so a very early one, as you can tell by the word new. This is a new facelift. Of course, the Mark I Transit was first introduced in October 65. Then there was this facelifted version in August 77, hence why we've got that new there. But I know a lot of you would probably refer to this as the Mark II Transit, but really it was just a facelift of the Mark I, not much going on behind, just a longer nose in the front there and a bit of a nicer dash, a bit more equipment. This was an unusual picture, this one on the front though. So first of all, we got Ford Transit in the bottom here, and this is actually in that sort of like shiny silver, which is rather nice. Ford badge, of course, new, as we've already talked about. And then this Transit here, unusual Transit, this one actually, because there's lots of extras on it. Do you ever remember seeing these Transits with these additional sort of overriders on there? I don't remember that at all, but obviously it's an optional extra, and they're more than just overriders. These are actually headlight wash. Also, this one's featuring these sorts of like chrome sorts of beauty rings on there. Never seen a Transit with those. We're getting another optional extra of this extra door in, and I think there's a bit of a bulkhead behind there. So a lot of extras on this particular example. But anyway, we'll open the brochure up and see what else we can see. And like I say, we're not going to read it all, but it says here, Transit is established as one of Europe's most successful ranges of commercial vehicles. It has succeeded because its a basic design is right for the job it has to do, whether it's carrying goods or people or both. And obviously the Mark I was a very successful vehicle, so this facelifted version had to continue with that success, and it certainly did so. Like I said, I'm not going to read through all this, but we'll move on to what sort of standard and optional refinements it had. So first of all, it tells us a little bit here, because this is kind of like it is a UK brochure, but it's kind of like also like a European brochure. So it says here, 2 levels of exterior and interior trim are available. Left-hand drive vehicles will be available in standard and L-Pack versions. Right-hand drive vehicles will be available in standard and custom versions. So first of all, standard equipment, this car-like environment. So, that's kind of like how the Mark I or the first Transits really started and were very successful, because vans before that was, very sort of commercial and not very nice to drive, and here arrived a much better vehicle. So we've got new 3-lever system controls, new heater, defroster, face level ventilation, ample storage for documents, excellent ride, 2-speed windscreen wipers, door operated courtesy lights, self-adjusting front discs and rear drums. But we've got options as well. So we can have a Transit with an automatic transmission, intermittent windscreen wash wipe, a radio, halogen headlamps, reversing lights, clock and trip meter, cigar lighter, and that headlamp wash. Then we move on to a page entitled The Driver's Transit, and what you will notice on these pictures of these Transits, they're not stripped down versions, they're all versions with lights, extra bits on. So we can see these seats here aren't standard seats. This is what it refers to as L-Pack, an optional custom seat. So a bit nicer seat, and you'll see this throughout the brochure. Let's zoom in on some of this text, and I might have a little bit of a zoom in on this cab as well. So So it tells you about this cab, and the driver's transit, cab entry, wide low step behind the front wheels means the door opening is completely free from wheel arch intrusion. The driver does not have to climb into the cab, he walks in. So cab roominess, so we've got the driver can walk across the cab. Access to load space is easy. You can seat 3 in the cab when required. And then seating. For the driver, a new deeper contoured seat. For passengers, a single or dual seat. For the driver, adjustable fore and aft for the rake in the L and custom version. For height also. Left-hand drive, all seats in rich brown embossed vinyl or brown striped cloth on L versions. Or on right-hand drive versions, all seats in black vinyl or rich brown embossed vinyl on custom version. Brown striped cloth optional on custom versions. So as we can see on this picture, as we zoom into the cab, nice little quarter light, I have to point that out of course. Nice little bit of wood actually, which is quite nice for a van. Looks like we have got that optional radio by the looks of it. And of course these optional custom seats in this one. And then we have a look at this dashboard a little bit better. Again, you can see that wood. We can also see on this particular version, it does have that clock, which would have been an optional extra as well as the radio optional extra. But overall, for the time, this is a 78 brochure, very car-like compared to other vans. Then we have a little bit of a look at some of the controls on there. A little bit of ventilation, even door pockets, and as we can see, or just about see, there is that automatic option. If I can find myself, there we go. Heating and ventilation, that optional radio of course. And if we go down, wash wipe system, but that unusual headlamp wash, I've never seen that one before. A little bit unusual. We got this little bit of a docket, obviously to keep bits and pieces, and plenty of places to store things, I think is what it's trying to show there. This little picture is trying to show the fuses, I guess, but what you do have to remember is a lot of these features are actually options. So even like tiny little features like the sort of plug-in sort of cigar lighter, they're all options. And a little bit of a look at what you'd spend a lot of time looking at if you worked with one of these. This clock is an optional extra. And then what else have we got here? This is going to be a heated rear window, which would have been an option. This would have been rear fog lamp, which probably would have been an option at the time as well. And then down the bottom there, I guess this is just your interior light switch. So this particular brochure is showing a few different engine choices. So you've got a 1.6 petrol or a 2 litre petrol, and also a 2.4 litre diesel. And of course it wouldn't be a transit brochure without showing you the most important part, the load space. With this extra door, obviously that's going to be an optional extra, as is would this full bulkhead would have been an option on there as well. And we get this little bit of an illustration of showing it without the bulkhead and with that optional half bulkhead there, and obviously this is a full bulkhead on this version. And of course one of the great things about transits was all the different combinations you could have your doors in, whichever suited your business. And this is really a page entitled Ease of Service, so it's got a little bit of a nice X-ray image, but I always like these hand-drawn images. Obviously this is the highest specs, and it does say at the bottom there this is a 2 litre automatic with the L pack, so we've got this optional headlamp wash, and obviously we've also got these nicer seats in there as well. So a lovely little image. It's telling us here on the side 20,000 kilometre major service intervals for the petrol. Like I say, it's saying kilometres because this is like a European-ish, or covering the European market as well. 10,000 kilometres for a minor service, 15,000 kilometres for a major service for the diesel, 7,500 kilometres for a minor service for the diesel. Let me just do a picture of this fuse box. I guess it's showing that it's kind of like easy access. as is the wiper motor, very easy access to change that. And then we're at the bottom here, we've got a printed circuit instrumentation. And this is a lovely shot actually of the compartment. Very interesting indeed. Not sure what's going on here, whether someone's scribbled something in for something extra to be put in there. That's interesting what someone's drawn in there. But really you can see how much room there is, and that's a big improvement on this facelifted model. Much more room for the engine at the front. I think this is actually a 2.4 litre diesel in there, but you know, because there's so much space in there, great to work at, but of course it also gives us different engine options as well, so kind of like the high performance ones. So if you're thinking about like police or ambulance service, you could have that 3 litre V6 Essex engine in there. Doesn't tell you in this brochure, but that was also an option. And I think in Australia they actually had a 4.1 litre 6-cylinder they put in there, so you know, plenty of space for different engine options, which was kind of like lacking in the original Mark 1. And you know, they had to have like a bullnose version, etc., to get larger engines in there. And then we get another image of this, you know, the first picture we saw on the front cover, but it's telling us this is a short wheelbase van, and there is options on the short wheelbase van, so 3 versions: the Transit 80, the Transit 100 and the Transit 120, with different normal payloads. But we also have the big long wheelbase version with the twin dual wheels at the back there. Again, different options, and remember, full of optional extras on these. These are also going to be the L-Pack ones with the extra headlamp wash on there. So different versions of this as well. So the Transit 100 long wheelbase with the single rear wheels, and then we've got the Transit 130, Transit 160, Transit 175 with the twin rear wheels and the different payloads of them as well. So the Transit bus, and like I say, all these transits are in yellow. They often use yellow in the brochure, and I think that looks really good in yellow because it's so easy to pick out the points. So there was 2 versions of Transit bus. There was the short wheelbase, 12 seats, or the long wheelbase with 15 seats as shown here. We also have this one as well, the Transit Combi, quite a rare one, this one really. Again, this is the highest spec one, the L-Pack specifications. It's also telling us actually that this little indicator here, this little side repeater, is also an option. And then other options, of course, we've talked about before, these extra sort of like chrome rings around here. This one's got reversing lights on, which would have been an option as well. And obviously the nicer seats, etc, etc. Unusual to see a transit van with this type of opening at the back. I guess it's nice to keep dry underneath there, but at the same time, as soon as you lifted that up, everything falls out. Unusual, and also it must be quite high to pull that back down again. A very unusual transit, that one. And of course the variations continue with the Transit chassis cab, all these different options that you could do for your transit. And then your pickups, or floats as they call it here. So on the left there, the Transit float. On the right there, the Transit float with a double cab on there. And then we've got a page entitled Product and Testing. So if we just zoom in on this top little image here, this is how they've kind of like treated it to protect it against rust. As you can see there, A, treated with zinc phosphate to inhibit rust. B, body completely immersed and electro-coated with anti-corrosion polybutane resin-based paint, sprayed electrostatically with primer, and then 2 coats of storm-resistant enamel baked on. So they tried their best to reduce rust. I don't think they were too bad really, considering they were working vehicles. And at the bottom, this rather fantastic image of this sort of product testing going on. Unusual picture. prizes for anyone who guesses the other testing car there. It's obviously a Ford of Germany car. I think it's a I would say a Ford Taunus, but it's not. I don't think it was really called as Ford Taunus actually. I think it was actually called the Ford P7B. So it would have been quite an old car. I think they produced them between 68 and 71. So a really nice little image though of those two vehicles testing, and this kind of like wire that's going across between the two cars, so obviously they couldn't drift too far away from each other. Great bit of driving needed there, I'm sure. And now we're right on the back cover now for the technical data. So engines at this time, there was available your 1599cc, your 1993cc, available as an economy model, and the standard model, and the 2.4 litre diesel. And then further technical data telling you which engines you could have on which particular model, transmission, 4-speed, synchromesh on the floor, etc, etc. I'm not going to go through all that, but you can pause the screen. I think you can just about see it, even though it's only quite small writing. And then at the bottom there, we've got a bit of information about the diesel cold start equipment. And then right at the bottom there, that is your date, February 1978, and it does tell us this is a European catalogue. So I think most of the vehicles in there were actually left-hand drive, and a bit of a Ford emblem. It is, however, printed in England. So there we go, the updated Mark 1 Ford Transit, or if you prefer, the Mark II Ford Transit. I must admit this is kind of like my favourite Ford Transit because I've got the most memories with these. I'm sure you've got lots of memories of these as well, so jot them in the comments. Always interesting to read. Have a great weekend. There will be another show tomorrow for our Saturday special where we look at limited edition cars or special edition cars. But for now we'll say please do like and subscribe. We'll see you very soon. Take care and goodbye.